That makes me so mad. My husband called while I was doing that other video, and I had to answer it. Of course, it cut the video off, so I have to do a part two. Well, where was I? I don't even know where I was. That makes me so mad. Kitty, kitty, coo! There goes Tortoise. Kitty, kitty, coo! Meow, meow. She was going across the road. She heard me. She turned around. Meow, meow. She is a stray, but she's gotten used to me. She goes out here and eats. I feed her. But I have to keep a distance from her. She'll get scared and spook off. But she will not let me come close enough to even think about petting her. But she heard me talking. Well, you heard me. And she was walking along and she turned around just like that. It was so cute. I wish you could have seen that. Meow, meow. I meow, and the sound goes right through that thin wooden door, front door right there. Here comes that orange and white tomcat. Oh, they're so cute. I get such a kick out of them. I'll take the phone and go show y'all them kitty cats right quick. Then I'll get back to my dad. Oh, they're so cute. There's little birdies. Watch out, little girl. Kitty, kitty, meow. Meow, meow. Get back. Watch out. Have to be. Meow, meow. Kitty, kitty, cute. Meow, meow. Well, come on. Come on and eat, kitty, kitties. Meow, meow. Meow, meow. Meow. He's so pretty. So pretty. Meow. There's Tortoise. She's had several litters. We've lived here about 3 years now. She's had several litters of cats. Meow, meow. She's increasing the kitty cat population. Her and several other females. Meow. Meow. She likes it when I talk to her, I guess, because she came back over here. Meow, meow. Meow, meow. Oh, sit down. Meow. Kitty, kitty, cute. He's so cute. So pretty. Meow, meow. Meow. Meow, meow. She might be pregnant again. Her belly's getting a little bit big there, and her kittens are big. They're not full grown yet, but they're big. Probably teenage years. She's probably pregnant again. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. Kitty, kitty, meow. It's a nice day here in West Texas. You can see the wind's blowing, but the temperature's nice. Well, I'm going to go back in and tell you about a story about my dad. I just couldn't resist. Kitty, kitty, cute. It a girl. It a girl, it a girl. She's just a baby. Now I'll get back in here and sit down. There's some nostalgia for you. Okay. Okay, about my dad. I don't remember where we left off. But anyway, I lived with my dad off and on most of the time. Well, all my life. And even after I grew up, I lived at my dad's house most of the time. I was single, never met Mr. Right, and I always wanted to get married, but just never met anybody that You know, just never met Mr. Right. Anyway, this was something that happened, I guess, about, I'm going to say 25 years ago. In that neighborhood of 25, give or take. And see, my dad didn't like to bathe. And I had something to do with his childhood, and my Granny Freeman being so strict, super strict, and so super, you know, I mean, she just whipped the tar out of him over any little thing. I mean, and she was really strict on him being super clean all the time, not having any dust on his clothes or nothing. And I think that had a lot to do with it. I think she whipped him a lot because of just being the slightest bit dirty and making him bathe. And he associated bathing with being whipped and punished. But anyway, he didn't like to bathe. He'd go, when he was young, he'd go, a week, 2 weeks without bathing, then he'd get in the shower, bathe, and we was always a little surprised. Hey, Dad's taking a shower. But, especially when he had to go to work every day, he showered more often. But, and a lot of times he'd just wash his face and his hands and put on a lot of that cologne that was real popular back then. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, as he got older, especially when he was forced to retire when he had that big heart attack and a big stroke that paralyzed him on the left side. He was completely paralyzed on the left side for a while, but God was merciful, and he was able to recuperate enough to where he could walk and get around. I mean, he didn't have full good use of his left leg, but he could barely lift it up so enough where he could manage to get around the house. But he never could use his left hand again. But anyway, he just got to where he just, no, now that happened later on in his 50s. Now, this is something that happened when he was in, now this happened prior to that. He had the stroke and the heart attack later on, okay? Now, sorry about that, y'all. This was before, when he was still able-bodied. Or was it? Because as long as he was able to go to work, he did bathe now and then. It must have been after he did have that stroke and he got better where he was able to get around and stuff. Now, before he was able to get around by himself, I made him bathe once a week. I'd say, come on, Dad, it's time for you to shower. And he'd go with me, and I'd go in there with him and help him get in the shower. And I think I put a chair in there for him. And but anyway, when he got to where he could get around better for himself, he got ornery about bathing, and he'd go longer and longer, a month, 3 months, 6 months. And one time, he went so long without bathing. One time, when he finally did bathe, I wrote it down on the calendar that Dad bathed today. So time went on and went on and went on until eventually a whole year went by before he bathed again. I ain't kidding you. And I'll tell you what prompted that. What prompted that was he had to go to the hospital to have some procedure done. And of course he was grimy. in Grody, and so they kept him before they did that procedure. They had to get him cleaned up. They kept him in there for 3 or 4 days, and they bathed him several times a day, scrubbed on him several times a day, trying to get all that grime off of him. But while he was there, when he went into the hospital, they told him, they said, Mr. Joyner, you have scabies. So I'm sure, of course, they treated him for that, and they scrubbed him and scrubbed him. And meanwhile, while he was at the hospital, I'll never forget two of my brothers, James and Judd. I think it was James. I know Judd was there for sure. Carrying Dad's mattress, taking it off his bed and carrying it out of the house and throwing it on the burn pile. I never will forget that. I'll never forget them. They had such a grim look on their face. Like, ooh. Oh, there's an area out there in the field right next, close to the house, where I would burn brush and vines and stuff that I cleared out as I did whenever I did yard work. So they threw that out there and burned it. Of course, they had to burn his bed sheets and blankets and everything. But that was my dad, just eccentric, I guess you could say. I've got where I don't like to bathe but once a week because it's so much trouble. And I don't like being grody, dirty. It's just so much trouble. And then have to take the bed sheets off the bed and wash them and go through all that. And it's so much work. And I don't have any help. Dadgum. I'm going to have to make myself bathe today, this evening. I'm going to have to change the sheets on the bed. I'm just going to have to knuckle down and do it because I don't want to get that bad. But there's some interesting stories I can tell you about my dad. One time when he was young, real young, and he was worked on the drilling rigs, his roughneck out here in West Texas, and he fell off the drilling rig. And thank God it didn't kill him, but it cracked his skull. And of course, he got to the hospital. They had to put a metal plate in his head where his skull had been cracked. And so he went through the rest of his life with that plate in his head. And, you know, when he got old and died and he was cremated, I was looking at his ashes and I could see the melted remains of metal parts, and they're just melted blobs. And I know that some of that was when he had his knees replaced. But I also knew that some of that was when he had that plate put in his head. Yeah. I think it hurt his back too. I'm not for sure. I mean, he'd hurt him pretty bad falling off that drilling rig. It's by the mercy of God that he didn't just die. Thank God. Now, I don't know if that's after he married my mom or shortly before he married my mom, or, sometime before. I don't know exactly when that happened. I just know it happened. And then there was another time, probably afterwards, because he wasn't working as a roughneck anymore after that. He would go drive around and check the wells, check the level of the oil in those great big huge tanks. You put a you open up this little hole and there's a stick you put down in there and you measure it. And you got to be real careful not to breathe in that. There's a poisonous gas that when you open that tank up, if you get a whiff of that poisonous gas, it'll kill you. Well, thank God he never got a whiff of it. Thank God. But anyway, he was going out to one of them wells one day, and a rabid animal ran up to him. Now, one of the kinfolks said it was a rabid fox, but my dad said it was a skunk. So it's probably a skunk. Rabid skunk ran up to him and bit him. So he had to go through those series of rabies shots. Now back then, they gave you them shots in the stomach. You'd go to the doctor, you'd lay down on that table, raise your shirt up, and they'd inject you big needle, push them big needles down into your stomach, not just the skin or the fat, all the way down into your food-holding stomach, all the way down in there. And he had to go through a series of rabies shots that way. Man, oh man. Thank God he survived that. Then another time, later on, my Uncle Bill was telling me about this. My dad had some kind of a propane tank on his truck, and he was wanting to check it for a leak or something, and he just wasn't thinking or something. He had a lighter, a cigarette lighter, and he got up close to that thing and turned on that lighter, and gas exploded, and it broke his arm. It must have been a small tank, I don't know, or else it would have killed him. It broke his arm. Man, oh man. Man, oh man. There's a couple other stories I can tell you about my dad too, but I'm going to save them for later. But I just wanted to tell you about that. Just talk a little about my dad. He had the rabies and the scabies. So that's it. I just want to talk about my daddy for a while, share that with y'all. Bye.